The rise and fall of a legend, an American story. This is a journey through triumph and tragedy, a tale of a young man who climbed from nothing to everything, only to discover that the view from the top can be the loneliest place on earth. Part 1. Beginnings in the Shadows. Winter arrived cold and unforgiving on January 8, 1935. In a humble wooden dwelling in Tupelo, Mississippi, a woman named Gladys labored through the most difficult night of her life. Her husband, Vernon, waited anxiously outside, their pockets empty, their future uncertain. The doctor delivered the first infant. Silence filled the room. The child had not survived. They named him Jesse. Minutes later, a second cry pierced the darkness. This baby's voice was strong, demanding to be heard. They called him Elvis. From his very first breath, this boy carried the weight of loss. He entered existence alongside death, his mother heartbroken, his family terrified. Though he would grow up alone, he always sensed an invisible companion, a missing piece that could never be found. Poverty defined their world. Not merely difficult circumstances, but crushing, relentless hardship. Their home lacked electricity and running water. Vernon worked whatever jobs he could find. Gladys toiled in laundries. Some nights, hunger visited their table uninvited. Yet one thing kept the child thriving: his mother's devotion. Gladys became his universe. She held him through every storm, sang melodies to soothe his fears, shielded him from every shadow. Their bond transcended the typical parent-child relationship. They were connected by survival itself. The South pulsed with music. In churches, voices rose in passionate gospel harmonies. On street corners, blues musicians poured their souls into every note. Radio waves carried country ballads of heartbreak and resilience. The boy absorbed it all, his young mind a sponge for sound and rhythm. At age 10, he entered a local singing competition. Standing on a crate to reach the microphone, dressed in his finest shirt, he performed a sorrowful tune about a boy and his faithful dog. The audience sat quietly, then applauded. He didn't claim victory, but something awakened inside him that day. A whisper, perhaps I have a gift. For his 11th birthday, he wanted a rifle. Gladys refused and purchased a modest guitar instead. The boy seemed underwhelmed. He didn't know how to play, but that simple instrument would eventually reshape the musical landscape. He taught himself slowly, watching others, listening intently, practicing for hours in solitude. His schoolmates mocked his worn clothing, his quiet demeanor, his peculiar dream of becoming a performer. Their ridicule didn't deter him. Music became his refuge. When he turned 13, the family relocated to Memphis, Tennessee, seeking better opportunities. They settled in government housing for low-income families. Vernon continued taking whatever work appeared. Gladys still wept at night. But their son kept strumming his guitar, absorbing the city's rich musical culture, dreaming of something beyond their circumstances. He visited African-American churches to experience powerful vocal performances. He wandered Beale Street, observing blues artists command their audiences. He wasn't merely imitating. He was transforming, becoming something unprecedented. Part 2, the spark that became a wildfire. The year arrived, 1953. Our subject had reached 18, still living with his parents, working as a delivery driver for an electrical supply company. His hair fell messily around his face, his eyes held a gentle quality, and his voice carried an indefinable resonance. Nobody recognized it yet, not his co-workers, not his family, not even himself. He earned $1 per hour driving a truck through Memphis streets. While navigating traffic, he hummed melodies. While making deliveries, he imagined standing before crowds. He shared these aspirations with no one. Dreamers like him faced mockery and dismissal. One sweltering July afternoon in 1953, he entered a modest recording facility called Sun Records. The owner, Sam Phillips, had stated his vision clearly. If he could discover a white performer who sang with African-American soul, commercial success would be inevitable. America remained racially divided. Music existed in separate worlds. Black artists created powerful blues, gospel, and soul, but only for black audiences. White listeners consumed polite country and pop. Nobody had successfully merged these traditions. Until that afternoon. He entered carrying his guitar, wearing a pink shirt and white trousers, nervous energy radiating from every movement. He approached the secretary, a woman named Marion, and spoke quietly about recording songs for his mother. She smiled and explained the cost. He agreed and stepped into the recording booth. The small room smelled of wood and perspiration. One microphone stood waiting. He adjusted his guitar strap, inhaled deeply, and began. His first selection was a tender romantic ballad. His second carried emotional depth. His voice wasn't technically perfect, but it possessed authenticity, honesty, soul. Marion listened from the control room, her attention captured. When he finished, she wrote a note. Promising vocalist worth pursuing. She couldn't have known that notation would mark the beginning of a revolution. He paid the small fee, collected his recording, and returned to his ordinary life. But Marion couldn't forget what she'd heard. She kept that recording for months. A year later, Sam Phillips asked about him. Marion remembered immediately. Phillips summoned him back to the studio. It was a humid summer evening in Memphis. 2 other musicians joined the session. Scotty on guitar, Bill on bass. They attempted various songs for hours. Nothing clicked. Everyone grew frustrated. Past midnight, they prepared to leave. Then it happened. He picked up his guitar and began an upbeat, playful version of a blues song originally performed by an African-American artist. But he transformed it completely. He injected energy, joy, and movement. Scotty and Bill joined spontaneously, not thinking, simply feeling. Sam Phillips rushed back from his break and shouted for them to repeat whatever they'd just created. They recorded it again with the same electricity, the same magic. That night, something entirely new entered the world. Not blues, not country, not gospel. A fusion unlike anything before. Rock and roll was born. 2 days later, a local DJ played the recording on his radio program. The station's phone lines exploded. Listeners couldn't determine the performer's race from his voice alone. They only knew the music felt alive. The DJ played it 14 times that single night. He rushed to the station for his first interview. The DJ asked questions designed to reveal his identity to listeners. Because in 1954, this kind of sound coming from a white performer was revolutionary. He didn't understand the controversy. He simply wanted to sing. But unknowingly, he'd opened a new chapter in musical history. Part 3. When the World Came Calling. Following that breakthrough recording, everything accelerated. He began performing locally, wearing flashy clothing, moving his body naturally to the rhythm. Women screamed, men stared, parents expressed shock. Nobody had witnessed this kind of performance before. His movements weren't calculated. They emerged organically from shyness, excitement, and pure rhythm. That uninhibited energy became his trademark. But he remained uncertain. He still lived modestly with his parents. He still worked part-time. He still felt like an outsider. Yet the entire nation was about to discover him. From late 1954 through early 1955, he recorded additional songs. Each combined blues, country, and that indefinable new element. His unique voice, his energy, his authenticity. He was creating something nobody else had achieved. His music made people dance and shout. It also angered certain audiences, because music wasn't supposed to cross cultural boundaries. He was demolishing those boundaries with every note, every movement, every ounce of freedom he expressed. He traveled to nearby towns with his band, performing in small venues. Initially, audiences sat quietly, unsure what to expect. Then he would begin singing. His body would move, his legs would shake, and something extraordinary would occur. The girls went wild. They screamed, cried, fainted, tried to touch him. He was genuinely confused by these reactions. He told his bandmate once that he didn't understand what he was doing differently. But whatever it was, it resonated powerfully. He was generating a new kind of energy. Dangerous, electric, alive. The music industry noticed. In late 1955, a man appeared calling himself Colonel Tom Parker. He wasn't actually military. He wasn't even American-born. But he understood business, promotion, and control. When he witnessed a performance, he recognized immediately. This young man is valuable, but needs management to reach his full potential. He approached the family with promises of fame, wealth, and stability. Gladys felt instinctive distrust. Vernon appreciated the financial security. Eventually, they signed the contract. The colonel became his manager, and soon his master. The Colonel's first major decision was selling his contract to RCA Victor, a national label. The deal totaled $35,000 in 1955, equivalent to over $400,000 today, the highest amount ever paid for a new artist. He was now officially national. In January 1956, he recorded his first song with RCA, a dark ballad about loneliness and despair. When it reached radio, it exploded. The song climbed to number 1. Suddenly his name appeared everywhere. Television, magazines, posters. People couldn't stop discussing him. Every smile came from his broken heart. Every movement declared, "I'm not finished. I am still the king." Critics called it the greatest comeback in music history. The audience wept. Old fans returned, new fans were born, and he was reborn. For the first time in years, he felt alive again. Part 8, Vegas and the Pills After the Come. He wasn't merely a singer. He represented a movement, the voice of youth, the sound of rebellion, the face of freedom. In March 1956, he appeared on national television for the first time. Then came more shows, culminating in the most famous stage in America. But here's the remarkable detail. Television cameras only showed him from the waist upward. Why? His hip movements. When he performed, his body moved with unprecedented freedom. Some called it too provocative, too wild, too dangerous. Religious leaders claimed he corrupted young people. Newspapers assigned him a nickname referencing his hip movements. But criticism only increased his popularity. He represented freedom itself. In just 1 year, from 1955 to 1956, he transformed from an impoverished truck driver to America's most famous young man. He earned over $50,000 monthly. He purchased his first mansion in Memphis. He gifted his mother a pink Cadillac. He wore custom-tailored clothing, sunglasses, jewelry. He had security, agents, press teams. But inside, he remained that same boy who'd lost his twin. Still shy, still searching, still uncertain how to navigate the storm. Fame granted power but delivered loneliness. The Colonel identified another opportunity: Hollywood. In 1956, he made his first film, a romantic drama. It earned millions. More films followed rapidly. He wasn't just a singer anymore. He was a movie star, and the Colonel controlled everything. The scripts, the finances, the image. He agreed to everything, trying to please everyone. But slowly he began losing control of his own existence. Part 4. The Price of Service. December 1957 arrived. At 22, he possessed millions of admirers, substantial wealth, multiple properties, gold records, and international recognition. He was also exhausted, weary of constant performing, endless movies, people trying to control him. Especially the Colonel, who viewed him as a product rather than a person. Then the letter arrived from the United States government. A draft notice. He was being called to military service like every other American man. His fans were devastated. Some begged the government to reconsider. But he accepted. "If I'm called, I'll serve. I don't want special treatment." He didn't resist. But internally he was terrified. Not of combat, but of what would happen to his career, his freedom, and most importantly, his mother. Before continuing, understand this. Gladys was more than his mother. She was his best friend, his heart, his protector, his soulmate. They'd survived poverty together. They'd shared tears, shared beds during harsh winters, shared laughter and prayers. He once declared his mother was the only person he'd ever truly loved. When fame arrived, he didn't distance himself. He purchased her a pink Cadillac. He brought her on tours. He called her nightly. He even invited her to movie sets. Gladys felt pride mixed with fear. She observed how fame was changing her son. She witnessed the pressure, the substances, the false friends, the isolation. It broke her heart. She began drinking heavily. Her health deteriorated. When she learned her child was entering the military, she couldn't bear it. In August 1958, days before his full deployment, Gladys was hospitalized. Her liver was failing. Her body was exhausted. She was only 46 years old. He rushed to her bedside. He held her hand. He wept. He whispered desperately for her not to leave him. On August 14th, 1958, at 2 o'clock in the morning, Gladys Love Presley died. He completely fell apart. He screamed, sobbed uncontrollably, kissed her repeatedly, collapsed on the hospital floor. At her funeral, he cried like a devastated child. not like a celebrity. He declared she was his everything. Even fans, media, and soldiers gave him space. Because this wasn't performance. This was genuine, unbearable pain. From that day forward, he would never be the same person. Part 5. Searching for Light in Germany in March 1958. He officially entered the United States Army. He reported to Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, becoming Private Presley. No special treatment on the surface. He wore standard uniform. He cut his famous hair. He cleaned facilities, carried equipment, followed orders. The media called it the king entering basic training. But he didn't complain. He stated he would fulfill this duty with complete dedication. He served honorably, trained rigorously, performed standard soldier duties. In October 1958, he was deployed to Friedberg, Germany, as part of a NATO operation. He lived in a rented house with his father, Vernon, and his grandmother. Days involved training. Evenings, he listened to records, played music, attempted to heal from his mother's death. Then one evening at a private gathering, a beautiful 14-year-old girl entered. Her name was Priscilla Beaulieu. She was the daughter of an American Air Force officer stationed in Germany. He was 24. She was 14. Their age difference raised questions. But in the 1950s, such relationships weren't as controversial as they would be today. Priscilla later stated he remained polite, respectful, and never made her uncomfortable. He felt instantly drawn to her. Not merely her appearance, but her gentleness, her innocence, her calming presence. He was still grieving, still broken. Priscilla brought him peace. They began spending time together, conversing for hours, watching films, listening to records. He shared his sadness. She listened. He played music for her. She smiled. He treated her like a precious secret he wanted to protect. In March 1960, after 2 years of military service, he left the Army and returned to America. He was now 25 and everything had transformed. His mother was gone. His soul still ached. The music world had evolved. New artists were emerging. The audience waited to see if he still possessed his magic. He was ready to try, but he wasn't the same boy anymore. He was now a man carrying pain behind his eyes. Part 6, The Comeback in the Cage, his first recording after returning, was a hit. Then came more songs. These weren't wild rock and roll. They were softer, sadder, more emotional. Because now he was singing with his pain. People loved it. His voice had matured. His heart had deepened. His soul was aflame. After leaving Germany, he couldn't forget Priscilla. They wrote letters, made telephone calls. In 1963, when she was 17, Priscilla moved to his mansion with her parents' permission. He promised to respect her boundaries. He gave her private quarters. He wanted her to complete her education, maintain privacy, develop at her own pace. It was an unusual relationship, filled with affection, control, confusion, and quiet aspirations. But for him, Priscilla represented safety, the one person who reminded him of his mother's gentleness. In the early 1960s, the Colonel pushed him to create more movies. He made beach films, romantic comedies, musical adventures. The movies were light, colorful, full of performances and dancing. But they were also repetitive and shallow. He disliked most of them. He wanted serious dramatic roles. But the Colonel insisted the money was in musicals, and fans loved them. So he obeyed. He made over 30 films, but truly valued very few. Slowly, he lost his passion. The boy who once electrified the world was now performing trivial songs on artificial movie sets. Deep inside, he felt himself dying creatively. Part 7. Marriage and Rebirth, May 1st, 1967. Las Vegas shimmered under morning sunlight. Inside the Aladdin Hotel, lights focused on one couple. He was 32. Priscilla was 21. After years of affection, long-distance correspondence, private moments, and a deepening bond that began in Germany, he finally proposed marriage. The wedding was private and brief. Only close friends, select reporters, and the Colonel attended. Priscilla wore a long white gown. He wore a black tuxedo. They looked perfect, but something felt strange. Many believed the wedding was arranged more for publicity than love. Some thought the Colonel forced it to protect his image. Others said he wasn't ready, but married her out of obligation. Still that morning, they smiled, kissed, cut cake. The world called them royalty. On February 1st, 1968, 9 months after the wedding, Priscilla gave birth to Lisa Marie. She was his only child. The moment he saw her, he cried. He held her close and whispered promises of eternal protection. For a moment, he found peace. His world, filled with pressure, money, and noise, suddenly had a quiet purpose. He spent more time at home, singing to Lisa Marie, watching her sleep, cherishing her tiny fingers. But peace doesn't endure long in fame's harsh light. Soon the pressure to perform, to remain on top, came crashing back. For most of the early 1960s, he'd been trapped in Hollywood contracts. His fans were losing interest. The Beatles had conquered the world. New artists represented the youth's voice. People asked if he was finished. Even he questioned whether he still had it, or if he was merely a memory. Then came the opportunity. A television special. One night to remind the world who he really was. To strip away the glitter, the artificial movie songs, the soft ballads, and resurrect the fire. He agreed. On December 3, 1968, millions of Americans turned on their televisions. What they witnessed was pure magic. He appeared in tight black leather holding a guitar, sitting with his original band, sweating, laughing, shouting, dancing. He performed his classic hits. He didn't lip-sync. He didn't act. He performed with complete soul. Every note emerged from deep pain. Back special, he returned to the studio. In 1969, he recorded songs with renewed passion. About love and jealousy. About poverty and shattered dreams. About emotional landscapes. These weren't just hits. They were personal. They were authentic. They were filled with the pain and poetry of a man who'd lost himself and was fighting to return. He told his band he didn't want artificial music anymore. He wanted to feel what he sang, and people felt it too. In 1969, he signed a contract to perform at the International Hotel in Las Vegas. 2 shows nightly, 7 days weekly, for months. Initially, it was thrilling. Crowds screamed. He wore flashy jumpsuits. He added martial arts moves to his choreography. He sang with fire, but over time it became a prison. The same venue, the same repertoire, the same schedule. He started taking pills to sleep, to wake up, to calm down, to perform. Uppers, downers, painkillers, sedatives. It began gradually, then became lifestyle. He claimed he just needed something to get through each day, but that something was destroying him internally. At home, things were also changing. Priscilla had been with him since adolescence. She loved him, but now she felt like a stranger in her own house. He was distant, always working, taking pills, flirting with other women. Priscilla said she felt married to a ghost. He was there physically, but not emotionally present. They argued more, spent less time together, lived in separate rooms. He still loved her, but didn't know how to be a husband. He only knew how to be the superstar, the king, the performer. In 1972, after 5 years of marriage, Priscilla left. They officially divorced in 1973. He cried. He held her hand in court. He didn't contest it because deep inside he knew. He'd already lost her long before the papers were signed. After the divorce, he was more isolated than ever. Lisa Marie stayed with Priscilla, but visited his mansion often. He loved her deeply. He gave her everything: toys, animals, vehicles, jewelry. But even Lisa could sense something was wrong. He was gaining weight, growing lethargic, moving slower. He was surrounded by bodyguards, assistants, and yes-men who never said no. But nobody said stop. He lived like a prisoner in a golden cage, surrounded by diamonds but starving for peace. Part 9, The Final Days. He was still in his late 30s, but looked twice that age. His face was swollen, his eyes often half-closed. His voice remained tired but still golden. His movements were slower, his memory weaker. He was addicted to prescription medications, legally provided by doctors, but destroying his body. Yet he still performed. He still went on stage. Why? Because he had to. To maintain his lifestyle, to satisfy the Colonel's endless contracts, to stay relevant. But every show grew harder. He needed assistance climbing stairs. He sometimes forgot lyrics. His clothing became soaked with perspiration. But when he sang, people still cried. Because no matter how weak his body became, his voice remained a divine gift. He didn't take substances to party. He took them to survive. To sleep, sleeping pills. To wake up, stimulants. To perform, painkillers. To relax, sedatives. To feel normal, everything. He had a private physician who provided thousands of pills yearly. In 1977 alone, he was prescribed over 10,000 doses of medications. Nobody stopped him because he was too big. When someone reaches that level, people fear saying no. After Priscilla, he tried finding love again. He dated Linda Thompson, a kind woman who tried helping him stay healthy. He later dated Ginger Alden, a beauty queen who became his final girlfriend. But he couldn't give his heart fully. He remained in love with Priscilla's memory and still grieving his mother's loss. Every woman in his life said the same thing. He was kind, but deeply sad. He would smile outwardly, but inside he was shattered. He wanted love, but didn't know how to stay. He rarely left his mansion in Memphis. He lived like royalty in a castle, but it wasn't golden. It was quiet, dark, full of memories. He watched television late into night. He read spiritual books, searching for meaning. He played piano alone, singing softly to himself. He ordered enormous amounts of food. He didn't exercise. He didn't sleep well. He didn't laugh like before. Sometimes he would stay in his room for days, just sitting, just thinking, just hurting. He told friends he was exhausted. He wasn't talking about his body. He was talking about his soul. He continued touring until the very end. Even in 1977, the year he died, he performed more than 50 shows. But something had changed. He looked ill. He was severely overweight. His skin was pale. He sometimes forgot which city he was in. Fans noticed. They were shocked. Some said he was finished, should stop, was embarrassing himself. But others cried, because when he sang certain emotional ballads, they heard not just a song, but a man dying while trying to give his soul away. Part 10. The Final Curtain. It was a hot summer morning in Memphis. He had just returned home after another late night. He had taken a large number of pills. At 2:30 in the morning, he told Ginger he was going to the bathroom and wouldn't be long. He went in and never came out. Hours later, Ginger found him unconscious on the floor. She screamed. Staff rushed in. They called emergency services. They attempted resuscitation, but it was too late. At 3:30 in the afternoon, he was pronounced dead at age 42. The news spread like wildfire. The world's reaction was immediate and overwhelming. People fainted, cried, screamed, prayed. Radio stations played his music for days. Television channels suspended programming to show tributes. Fans flew to his mansion from across the globe. His funeral was held 2 days later. Tens of thousands stood in burning heat, waiting to walk past his open casket. He was dressed in white, holding a Bible, lying peacefully. Many said he finally looks free. He was buried at Forest Hill Cemetery, but after a threat to steal his body, he was moved to his mansion property, next to his mother Gladys. They are together now. The boy and the woman who loved him more than anything. Visitors from all over the world still walk to his grave. Some leave flowers, some cry. Some stand silently and whisper thank you. Epilogue. The legend lives on, he is gone, but he is everywhere. His music still sells millions of records. His home is one of America's most visited houses. His face appears on merchandise worldwide. His voice is studied by singers. His life is remembered in films, books, museums. His pain is felt by every artist who ever felt trapped by fame. But most of all, he lives in people's hearts. Because he wasn't just a star. He was a boy who wanted to sing for his mother. He was a man who wanted to be loved. He was a king who gave everything and died trying to find peace. His health collapsed due to substances, pressure, loneliness, and pain. His final years were filled with performances, pills, silence, and suffering. He died on August 16, 1977, alone in his mansion. His funeral was massive. His death shocked the entire world. But his legacy became even stronger after death, because his story is real, painful, beautiful, and unforgettable. He started as an impoverished boy with a guitar, singing for his mother. He became the most famous voice in the world. He gave the world rock and roll, soul style, and emotion. But behind the fame was a man who just wanted love, peace, and quiet. His story teaches us that fame doesn't heal pain, that money can't buy happiness, that dreams come with a cost, and that even a king can feel empty inside. He didn't die. He just left the building. Long live the king.